So today I want to thank everyone once again for getting up early. We have a great day of education. It's great to see some friends, family here today. I want to jump in on a more sobering conversation is what would happen if we really took our data seriously? As I mentioned yesterday, I've been traveling extensively, working with 20 groups, private events, dealer groups to really look at the data. And today I'd really like to challenge you to think about some things in a very simple format. I also printed out a checklist, and I'm sure someone from the PCG team is going to go find those printouts and put them on the tables, because I really want you to leave here today with a checklist for the dealers here on how could I go back and really make a difference at my dealership. I've spent some time over the last year rebranding. So PCG Digital, the agency side of the business, is being run by Denise Casagrande. Glenn and I have been moving more towards the coaching, education, training, field work with dealers and OEMs. So Brian Pasch Enterprises really encompasses all that training and education. And I'm super excited about the opportunities that I'm seeing to help dealers evolve their business. So let's go through a few things. It surprises me in 2019 that dealers don't own their key digital accounts. Here's how I know that. PCG offers an audit. I think it's the most comprehensive audit of a dealer's digital and CRM process. It's a very detailed report, and it takes about 2 hours to go through just presenting it. Part of the audit, when a dealer says, can you take a look at my data, we give them a startup sheet. You know what the biggest delay is? Figuring out what their accounts are. How many of you have had an employee leave only to find out that all your Google accounts are attached to their personal Gmail account? And then you have a disgruntled employee that's now holding you over the barrel because they will not add a new email address as admin and remove themselves. I want to encourage everyone here in the room, whether it's your Google My Business, your Google Search Console, your Google Analytics account, create an email that no one owns. You know, like dataservices@andersonchevrolet.com. And data services is an account that your dealership owns, so that when your marketing manager leaves, you still own the account. Now, there is some exceptions. Most OEM co-opt digital advertising companies will not give you access to AdWords or Google Ads. And there's a lot of reasons for that. Whether you like it or not, that's probably something that's not going to change anytime soon, but all your other accounts should be owned. For the dealer principals here, for the general managers, the sales managers, those who are watching via live stream, do you really have that locked down? This is something relatively new. If you took your data seriously, you would peek into what your vendors have loaded into your Tag Manager containers. There was an interesting live stream event from Dealer Refresh the other day with my good friend George Nenny and a super smart guy named Jeff Tognetti. And the conversation is, do you really know who's taking your data? Do you know that a vendor could put a script into your GTM container to siphon off every single lead form data and send it to some unknown source? Did you know that? How many said, I had no idea that a script in a GTM container could do that? So what's happening is your website company has a GTM container. Maybe you hire an agency, a technology company. What dealers never figured out is that when they fire some of these companies, they have to take the scripts out. Why does the vendor leave them in? It could be laziness, or They're still collecting data like audience data and targeting data that could be used against you if there was a malicious company. Most of the companies that I do business with, I trust their moral compass, but why would you give anybody that you fired? How do I know this happens? Look at your Google Analytics events. I say, oh, look at these events firing. Oh, you must be using vendor X because I know what the events are. Like, no, we fired them 6 months ago. I said, well, they're firing scripts on all your pages. Sometimes when there's too many people firing events and scripts in your tag manager container, has anybody had problems with performance? Website load times go down? Somebody had a problem the other day. Their website was taking a tremendous amount of time to load. Here's what they found. A vendor that they fired had a script. That script was calling a server that was down. Since the server was down, it was timing out, the page wasn't loading, and they're like, wow, are you telling me that the scripts that are on my website, if the technology company goes down, could be impacting? Yes. But it shouldn't have happened in this particular dealer's case because they had fired the vendor. Now, it is a specialized skill to look at tag manager containers, okay? For the average dealer, they would think it's French or German or some, other cryptic language. You're going to need to have a trusted consultant, or you talk to your website company. You can use the Google Tag Manager Assistant to see how many Tag Manager containers are installed on your website, and then you have to make sure what's in each container. Are we clear? Go ahead, Todd. Yeah, I think it's definitely something you should have in vendor contracts. That, here's what I believe. If they install something on your website, they document what they're installing and what the purpose of those scripts are. Because I do know some really smart marketing managers, when we were doing some testing of different products, they were like, what are you putting in the tag manager? Send me the script. Let me take a look at it. I want in writing what you're saying you're doing with that data. So Todd, that is a very important thing. It's a completely overlooked conversation, and with the wrong intent, your entire audience data and your targeting data and the marketing results could be siphoned off. Go. So that was a great recommendation. Since the website companies have to be involved in installing a new container, you should have also an agreement with your website company that no new containers are installed on your website without a certain specific authorization level, right? It's just, I'm not over-exaggerating that this is important. I'm not saying that there are people stealing your data. I don't want to start that firestorm. Here's what I'm telling you. There are multiple frequent examples of dealers' performance being hindered by multiple tag manager scripts, of vendors that have been canceled. And once a vendor is canceled, I have no idea where that data is going. And you should not have that data leak. Go. Yeah, that's a very interesting thing. Could you have an offboarding process? Now, in an ideal world, you would want that. but there's been many cases when that termination notice comes, there's some fried personalities, right? But to do the right thing, I think that's a great recommendation that the vendor should say, listen, let's go through our offboarding checklist. We've created these goals in Google Analytics. You can disable them. They're not going to fire. We've installed these tag manager scripts. We've put in a work order with your website company to remove them. Even if it's not a formal call, maybe a document that says, now that you're no longer with us, these are the things that we will remove, and these are the things that you should do. Now, this is amazing to me, and it happens every week in my life that I do an audit for dealers, and there's not a single conversion goal set up. You see, dealers tell me, and for all the dealers here in the room and the vendors, you know this, it's not uncommon for a dealer to say, I want more leads. Isn't that fair? And leads would be phone calls, chats, text, or lead forms. So, the 4 hard. And if you have a third-party tool, like a trade pending or something on your website, you could actually have 5 hard conversion goals. Dealer says, I want more leads. I'm firing my agency because I'm not getting enough leads. And I'm like, no, you don't want more leads. And they're like, what do you mean? I said, because you're not even tracking what generated the leads you're getting. And I've had an opportunity to do a number of these audits. Dan Bannister, you're in the room, right? Is there a mic over at your table somewhere? I think I left one. Travis, stop hogging that mic. Dan, you recently went through an audit with me through our affiliation with Nissan, going out and helping dealers. What was the biggest eye-opener for you when I came in and our team looked at your data that you never knew before?
Well, I would say this is one that we didn't have any conversion set up, conversion goals. We were spending at one point $50,000 a month in PPC, went down to $25,000 a month, and when you came in, you looked at it, and I actually gave you my PPC business, and you took us down to $7,000 a month. And one of the first things I said to you, I said, why are we not spending more money? What are you doing? And now that I understand Google Analytics and went back, actually our traffic increased with spending a fraction of the amount of money that we're giving to you. So thank you for that. But the biggest eye-opening thing was that a couple things is that our brand messaging was way off. You came in there, you tore that up. I thought I knew what I was doing. I thought that I had a good brand message, so I changed to a modern brand messaging. That was a big thing, and that I didn't know what was working. I thought I knew. I didn't. I wasn't getting the traffic that I was getting. But now with what your company has allowed me to do, we're spending a fraction amount of our total advertising budget. It went down about 30%, and our car sales went up tremendously. So thank you.
So it's an eye-opener. It's an eye-opener. Travis, you're at the table. We have visited a few dozen dealers as part of Nissan's modern retail experience. You know these dealers. You've been with Nissan a number of years. What's the biggest takeaway? You say, because we've done dozens of these audits, what's your takeaway? Why it's so important that dealers need to be making sure they can measure the traffic and the results that they're getting?
Travis Chance from Nissan. For those dealers who are moving towards a modern retail experience, digital retail, virtual retail, however you should name it, it's important to know where the traffic is coming from. As you engage with the vendor that installs a tool on your website, you have no way of knowing if that tool is actually working and driving the necessary traffic to the store, then it really is just a tool at that point.
Yeah, and it's so amazing that when Travis and I set out a roadmap on how to roll out in pilots, one of the things that Travis said was, wow, we underestimated what it takes to set up digital retailing effectively because no one was measuring things. And Travis, how did that change your playbook for imagining what the future of digital retailing is going to look like?
Well, initially, it was our intention to allow our dealers that are within the pilot, but also the dealers within our network, to self-select the tool that they wanted. and that still will remain the same, but the difference is now that we have a much better visualization of the time it takes, it's not about just installing the tool. And I speak very shortly on some of the things we found. A lot of the traffic was going into the direct channel. So if all your traffic is going into the direct channel, you have no real way of knowing whether your CRM email templates are working. You have no real way of knowing whether the links that are on your website or those that are out in the public space are actually driving traffic to your website, particularly to the CRM.
And so I want to encourage everyone who's watching live stream, would you take a minute to see if you're measuring conversion. Saturday, we did the full day Google Analytics class, and people volunteered right in front of class, very transparent. And there was one dealer who was spending a significant amount of money on digital marketing, not a single conversion goal. And so that person asked me and said, well, how do you fix it? And I think most people were blown away that if you have the right vendor partners, it takes less than 5 minutes to set up those 4 conversion goals. Now you can point fingers, but the bottom line is, dealers, if your website company doesn't care about setting up conversion goals, if your digital agency doesn't care about digital goals, don't be mad at them. You should be mad at yourself that you're writing a check for $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a month and have no way to measure which marketing messages, which audiences, which ad copy bringing people to your website. Another thing, if you took your data seriously, you would fall in love with your #1 free advertising partner, Google My Business. I just showed here a little snippet of the inside of a Google My Business listing. There is a link to your website in the Google My Business listing. I would say over half of the dealers in the United States, most of those who don't read or follow my blogs, have a naked link. Legacy Nissan was one of them, just legacynissan.com. No one told the general manager that if you put a UTM tag on that, you could see the power of branded organic traffic. You see, Google blocks in analytics organic branded keywords and organic keywords in general. They give you a little snippet, a little taste. And there's reasons why Google blocks that. When you tag your Google My Business listing, something amazing happens. Meaning, if you took your data seriously, you will find out that the #1 conversion channel to your website for the things that you measure, which are lead forms, phone calls, chats, and texts, those 4 hard conversions come from branded organic traffic. Measuring showroom visits, even though Google has a metric called store visits, the problem with that metric, it doesn't differentiate between somebody who came in for service or somebody who came in for sales or somebody who came in just to deliver a package. So the things that we measure are the activity on our website and the outcomes that we get. When you tag this button in your campaign report, finally, is this traffic called Google My Business. Here's some mind-blowing stats. More than 50% of all the conversions that you get per month come from that button. Now remember, that button is only half of your branded organic traffic. You see, when you type in a dealership's name in 2019, their website is #1 on organic every single time. Their Google My Business comes up every single time. I'm just talking about that button on the right. There are still people who click on the left. But we can see about half of the organic traffic through the Google My Business button, and that represents over 50% of all hard conversions that you can measure. Now, one of the problems is dealers don't have relevant content on their website. Folks at Dealer Teamwork fix that problem. But think about this. If you don't have relevant content, you're a mess. If you don't have, listen, if you don't have a clear brand promise, you're missing the best traffic that you could ever ask for. Meaning, don't you understand, when you see and you tag that button, you say, wow, branded organic traffic is the highest quality traffic, most converting traffic. How do I get more people to search my name? Branding. a clear brand promise. Then, of course, you need to buy keywords, but you have to take it to relevant content. What most people don't understand today is that about 70% of all year, make, model keyword searches sent to an SRP result in a consumer never looking at another page on your website. Let me say that again. 70% of the clicks based on year, make, model to an SRP never go look at another page on your website. Now, some of you who have dynamic SRPs like Dealer eProcess, they find that they get a lot of leads on SRPs because you can do a lot of things that some websites only allow you to do on a VDP. But keep in mind that if you took your data seriously and you tagged your Google My Business button, this should be screaming for what we talked about last night. If I don't have a modern brand promise, people aren't going to be searching my name. And then it's a jump ball on paid search. Why not use paid search to do what it should be doing, is filling in the people who don't know your brand? And why don't have a clear brand promise? If you need any evidence to your management team that you need a clear brand promise, tag that traffic and look at it 30 days later. It's shocking. Now, the other thing that's odd in 2019 is that the majority of dealers are not tracking what people do on their website. Leads in general are capped. There's 1%, maybe 2% of total traffic to your website submits a lead form. 0.5% will chat, 0.5% will text, maybe 7% will call you. The majority of consumers don't convert on your website. They show up. Shouldn't we be tracking what people do on the website? In my analytics class on Saturday, I just asked a simple question. Do you think your used car manager is an expert in Google AdWords? Anybody say my used car manager is into Google AdWords? He's certified, she's certified. But yet, all agencies tell the used car manager, we're going to help you sell more cars. Hey, great. How are you going to do it? No problem. Just give me $10,000 a month. I'm going to sell you more cars. At the end of the month, the used car manager gets a report. Here's the campaigns. This is how many impressions and how many clicks. And here was the click-through rate. And here was the time on site. And here was the average number of page views. And you got 25 leads. Do you think any used car manager knows what to do with that data? What if the number was supposed to be 100 leads? What if it was supposed to be 5 leads? And they're looking really well. You see, in order to know if the traffic that your agency is sending to your website is engaged, you need to look at things like, well, did they look at photos? Did they use the trade-in tool? Did they use the payment calculator? You see, if you talk to a used car manager and said, hey, 20% of the people who clicked on your used car ad looked at photos, and then they knew my benchmark that it should be at least 15%, they were like, man, my agency's doing good. Pasch told me that 15% of the people on used car campaigns that are being sent to SRPs or VDPs should look at photos, and my agency's at 25%. They're doing great. You understand what I just did? I gave the used car manager a metric that they understand. Because the used car manager knows if someone's interested in my one-of-one used cars, a percentage of them will look at photos at some visit. Does that make sense? But isn't it odd that the majority of dealers, and not a single OEM in 2019 has a standard for the website companies in their program to give dealers consistent, whoa, I guess the OEMs are shutting off the power on me. I will not be silenced, even if it's in the dark. It is crazy for me that OEMs are forcing dealers into more and more digital spend. There's Google seminars, Facebook seminars, everybody's having a seminar, and there's not a single OEM that's saying, shouldn't we give our dealers the ability to see what this traffic is doing on our website? It's crazy. I published a standard in 2016 as a result of a project challenge from Lithia. The good news is that there's a number of website companies that support that spec and can turn it on relatively easily. to give dealers transparency. But I really think that if we took our data seriously, we would want to know, hey, if 70% of the people who went to an SRP did nothing, then what did they do on the SRP? You with me? Did they look at photos? Did they use some things? Okay, that's good traffic, but what if they're doing nothing? It's a jump ball. You have to guess. We shouldn't be guessing in 2019. Last year, we announced at the Automotive Analytics and Attribution Summit, VistaDash, a tool that I built with a great group of people, was purchased by Car Wars. It's now part of the Car Wars portfolio. They came out with this package because we need a universal, trusted team to help dealers get their analytics set up properly, which is tagging the entire website to measure consumer engagement, making sure their goals are set up, making sure their UTM tags are set up. So I asked Cassie and Dan Moore to put together a package, and to me, this is a no-brainer. By the way, there wasn't a single dealer in the class that we looked at on Saturday that had analytics set up properly. Not one that we looked at publicly. I would say 99% of the dealers' Google Analytics that I look at are not set up properly. You see, if we took our data seriously, we would spend the money to get it set up. I want to talk about leveraging custom audiences because there's many definitions here. If you took your data seriously, wouldn't you start modeling the people who visit your website? Saturday in class, some of my students were blown away about one simple thing you can do with your own data, that is create an engaged retargeting list. You see, some dealers in this room and thousands of dealers who are watching this on live stream are retargeting everyone who comes to their website. But let me just ask you a question. If somebody comes to your homepage and does nothing, doesn't even scroll, doesn't do anything, what message would you retarget them with? How about this? You know that people accidentally click ads. You know people who are coming to your store click on your ad just to go to the homepage to validate the address so they can put it in their GPS or Google Maps. Isn't that true? Do you know that 25% of all people that go to the home page from paid search, it's kind of natural, 22 to 25, do nothing. They clicked on your ad. The ad takes them to the home page, which is the best landing page for non-brand determined searches. They do nothing. Why? Those are the people calling the dealership. They're coming. They just clicked on your $199 a month special or whatever, and they're just calling. Think about this. Once you get your website tagged, look, you'll know who looked at photos, who used the trade-in tool, who used the payment calculator, who downloaded the Carfax, right? You with me? Aren't these important shopping behaviors? The majority of dealers have no events triggered when people are doing their shopping. And I showed them in 1 minute, if your site is tagged, you could create an audience called engaged shoppers. And you know how you build it? You say, if somebody looked at photos or swiped, if somebody used the payment calculator, if someone downloaded the Carfax, if someone downloaded the window stick. You with me? All the things that a used car manager or a new car manager could tell you, these actions on my website to me sound like an engaged shopper. There's no used car manager or new car manager that would say, if somebody clicks on an ad and goes to a VDP and does absolutely nothing or scroll down the page, that I want to spend $1 chasing them with some message. Do you know in 1 minute you can create an audience for engaged shoppers? In 1 minute, share it with your AdWords agency, and then you tell them, don't retarget everyone. Retarget engaged shoppers. I showed them, if you're a big truck dealer, we had the Hoblet team up here yesterday. Hey, if they looked at any, or excuse me, if they visited any SRP or VDP with F-150 in it, and, listen, and they looked at photos, used the trading, you with me? All the actions, that could be your engaged truck shopper audience. And then we want to talk about some also amazing audiences. Car gurus, Cars.com, and others are now leveraging their custom audiences to help your advertising be more effective. You should talk, Joe Chura and Alex Vetter shared with me some interesting data of what happens when a dealer uses their custom audience overlaid in their local market on advertising, and the increase in performance was pretty staggering. The Dealer Inspire booth is here. I think we need to understand whose audience we're buying. Here's my general problem. When Google says I have an in-market shopper audience, I have to trust Google on how that's built. If I can leverage Cars.com's custom audience, I know exactly what that is. Meaning someone doesn't go to Cars.com to service their car. They don't go to Cars.com to talk to their buddy about a party. You with me? The traffic to those websites, whether it's TrueCar, whether it's Car Gurus or Cars.com or AutoTrader or KBB, they're really pure in-market shopping audiences. If you could leverage those audiences directly without the dilution or pollution of things, those are worth testing, because you should be taking your data seriously and those unique custom audiences. Any questions on that? Oh, go ahead. Yes. Yes, so I'm going to defer to Madam President Denise Casagrande. She does a lot of work on Facebook with lookalike audiences, so you can check with Denise about that. Here's my general problem with lookalike audiences. The automotive industry is hard to build a lookalike audience different than a cigar lookalike, a cigar buyer or a luxury, I just feel when I look at a dealership and I visit a dealership, it's like every walk of life. Who's buying, a Chevrolet vehicle? I mean, is it just one demographic? But if I said, hey, if I could model Yago, because all he does is run around the world and do Spartans every week, I bet if I could find a lot of people who go to, like, I want to kill myself on a SpartanRace.com, that website, I bet, since that's very pure, that a lookalike audience might work. But I have not personally have had a lot of experience with, say, a Google lookalike audience or matching. That's just my experience. I'm not saying it doesn't work or work, but it's always been odd that sometimes the lookalike audiences don't perform like your audience. And it could be there's some bloat in there. This is my favorite topic. It will be something I'll be focusing on for the next year for sure, is this idea that we've gotten retail wrong. When I travel around, I use the Wayback Machine. Have you ever done that? The Wayback, if you haven't done it, go to waybackmachine.com and put in your dealership URL. Now, the idea here is if you're a brand new point, it will only have the last few years. But the hysterical thing is go back in time to 1995, 96, 2000. I mean, the website designs were crazy. You got to remember, back in 2000, there were really no BDCs. There were dealers in 95 and 2000 that still thought the internet was a fad. There were dealers who said, if somebody submits a lead on my website, they're not serious. If they were serious, they'd show up. Now, I want to be very respectful of the website companies here, but you have not led in the area of online engagement. I want to be respectful to the OEMs here, is that you've perpetuated this lead form and lead response craziness. And so for everyone who's listening, live streaming, lean in for a moment on this particular topic. This is just any dealer. I anonymize it because I don't like to pick on anybody. I'm not picking on anybody. This is a problem. This is a VDP. We have the MSRP crossed out. It's locked because most likely this is a map pricing issue. You have to unlock the price. But notice there's the out-the-door price, and then you could request a quote, or you could make us an offer, or you could sell us your web-footed duck friend, or so, there's another button for that. Schedule a test drive. Every one of these actions pops up a lead form. Here's the most amazing thing. There's not a dealer I know that likes to pay for people to chase customers in the BDC via email. There's not one. Oh yes, I love having really impersonal, remote, frustrating conversations with consumers that never answer me. That really is exciting. You know why we have a problem hiring people in automotive? We have really shitty jobs. We ask a new salesperson to work 70 hours a week. If you ask my son to work 70 hours a week, he would leave the country. I have a lot of millennials in the office. They will not answer any communications from me on a weekend. In my mind, I would be like, I'd get fired. And they're like, yeah, no, it's the weekend. Oh, yeah? But Rome is burning. No, yeah, it's a weekend. I was on a family thing. And, I normally don't do the business thing on the weekends. And that's acceptable. We come in 2019, and here's my premise. We haven't changed the way we communicate and serve consumers in 20 years. And you're all guilty. Every website company here, every OEM, every dealer. Here's the thing. You didn't take your data seriously. You didn't look at what was happening. Now, in this moment, what I hope is that the data that I'm going to share with you is going to motivate you to embrace digital retailing faster, but more importantly, not just digital retailing, but providing real-time assistance for the consumer when they're on their website. I'm not picking on anybody or any platform. This is the same, whether it's CDK, Dealer Inspired, Dealer.com, Dealer eProcess. I searched this morning just for local dealers, just local to here. And here's the MSRP. God forbid we would give a selling price in 2019 because, well, we can't do that. We don't want to. So, here's what I'm saying. I think in 2019, and I'm not being disrespectful, in 2019, when Connor comes to that website and get ePrice, he's expecting a price to be shown. Yes or no? Before they leave. You spent millions of dollars for this facility and millions of dollars on floor planning, tens of thousands on marketing. You get somebody to come to a car that they're interested in, and you won't even answer a simple question. It's the same for expensive cars. There's the price. Get the e-price. But notice the sickness. You know what that form screams to me? Insanity. I will not give you a price unless you agree to use the least effective communication that our dealership hates, ignores, and we hate using the CRM. I'm going to give you the answer, but I'm also going to torture myself. It's the truth. Why is that where we are today? And you can blame it on the OEM. You could. You could blame it on the website companies for not coming up with a better solution. I'm telling you that before we even address digital retailing, we got to fix this and move to more conversational commerce. There's some companies here today that are doing some amazing work in this to change. This is just another example. I'm going to get to a solution. In 2019, wouldn't you agree that it says get today's sale price? It's even more. It's like today. This is fresh. The price is like fresh. Yep. I'm not going to give you today's sale price because I'm going to force you to use email, and we'll get back to you in the next day or two. So today's sale price is maybe going to be a day old. Here's what you should know. For people who are on live stream, please take this to heart. My rough data looking at a few hundred dealers, when you put a CTA button, a call to action button on your website in 2019, less than 40% of those people fill out the form. How many of you, when you go to a site, cigar site, wine site, shoe site, and in the first 30 seconds, a pop-up comes and says, save 10% off your next order, how many of you don't fill out that form normally? Raise your hand. Look around the room. Almost everyone's hands up because you know that you're going to get an email every day until you die. It's the truth. Just sign up. Go to any wine store that ships. Any cigar store. I mean, how many cigars can you smoke? You sign up for any cigar store, there's a cigar email every single day. The reason why there's so many alcoholics is the wine stores are emailing people every single day. I'm going to try to cut down on wine. Oh my God, look at that special. It's the truth. So we don't do it because there's more pain associated with what we really wanted. Less than 40% of the people who click on your call to action buttons today fill out that form, and less than half actually respond via email. I asked Joe Chur for his numbers. His numbers were half that. Think about this, dealers. We're talking about marketing. You're spending all this money to drive people to your website, and people have a simple question. Listen, check availability. We did this for one of the Maury stores. I was there at a general manager's digital awareness training. And the Subaru general manager had a gut feeling, something's wrong with my website. And I'm like, okay, let's look at it. Since the Maury's Group has all their websites standardized and tagged, right in that meeting, I was able to show this general manager, and then later found out, had the worst form completion rate I've ever seen. Only 16% of the people who clicked on check availability filled out the form, and at 50% two-way, 8% two-way engagement. Now you have to understand something. Yesterday we had Todd, we had Ben, we had James talking about brand promise. Let me just tell you something. I'm working with the Maury's team to fix this. The button that says get by happy price, because the Subaru dealer, it's a MAP pricing. Do you understand their whole brand promise is to make it easy, to make it happy, enjoyable? When the button says get by happy price and only 16% of the people fill out the form, is that a violation of your brand promise, yes or no? Do you understand? In the shop video, you heard the manager say, we can say anything online, whether it's one price, one person, or hour, any other combination. But when they come to our dealership, we could completely violate that brand promise. I'm telling you, these stupid call to action buttons, because you're addicted to leads, you hate them yourself, you hate handling them, you have turnover your BDC. What's the solution? This is just one example. I'm personally working with LivePerson, Dealer Inspire, Gubagoo, Car Now, and Jerry Tebow with Talk Options to solve this problem. There is no reason in 2019 that if we have a brand promise like unlock our instant price, there should be a form. Go ahead, Todd. Okay. Yes. they're getting more leads. Right. Todd, you hit the nail on the head. I've used this example. Ladies, I need your help. Think of the last time you bought shoes online. You know, there's the model, has 5 or 6 different angles of the shoes, and it has little boxes for the different sizes. If they don't have a size 7, what happens to that box? It's grayed out. You go to the page, listen, in 2 seconds, you know, hey, I can't buy that shoe. I'm a size 7. I'm not personally a size 7, I'm just saying. But here's my point. We are so addicted to these stupid call to action. We're frustrating people for simple questions. I asked Joe Chura, because Maurice uses Dealer Inspire website, what could we do? Now, what I'm going to show you isn't what I like, but it's close. So I clicked on the unlock, and the Anabot, their AI bot, said, I'm here to give you our price. Who am I speaking with? I said, Brian. And the bot said, your last name. I said, Pasch. And then the bot said, awesome, thanks. No, the consumer would not know this is not a real person. Awesome, thanks. Can I have your email or phone number? Now, I'm going to give you the secret. I believe this is the secret. That's a mistake to ask there because there was no value established. But what if Anabot said, Mercedes won't allow us to show our low prices online, but I can send that low price to you directly right now via text. What's your mobile number? Or some combination. Mercedes will not allow me to show our low price, but I can give you our low price and a full detail record of this car. What's your mobile number? Do you think people would do that in 2019? This is how you're doing business. This applies to Nissan, Toyota, anybody who has map pricing. I'm not allowed. Nissan won't allow me to show our low market price, but I can send that to you directly. What's your mobile number? Stop. The bar is super low. Do you understand? You're talking via email. Less than 20% of the people have a simple question. This gives you the opportunity to double or triple your leads. With this question that I don't believe is perfect, Joe Chura already saw a 40% lift in two-way engagement over traditional forms. For some dealers, that would be exciting. I don't think this is good enough yet. Last year at AAAS, Denise Chuddy and the LivePerson team talked about conversational commerce. They're a leader in this area. Ladies and gentlemen, we have the technology today to automate two-way engagement while the consumer's on our website. Why are we chasing them? Because we're using a playbook that's outdated, and we got to change. We also have to stop kicking third-party portals. Now, you may think, Brian, why are you defending the car gurus in the world, the cars.com, the TrueCar? So let me put it in context. When I walk into a dealership, my only objective is to help them increase net new shoppers and sales. I'm agnostic on what strategies, because each strategy has to be different for each dealer. But one thing I'm going to say about the third-party portals that they got right is they created a clear brand promise. How does a site like cars.com or Car Gurus get 35 to 40 million visitors a month? Simple. They created a clear brand promise. But it's also how people shop. We shop differently than we did 10 years ago. How many of you, when you need something general for the house or electronics, instead of Googling it anymore, just go right to Amazon? Raise your hand. Do you understand? Half the room doesn't even use the search engine anymore because they go to where they have the largest selection, a safe environment to shop and explore and compare. I am not justifying any specific portal's pricing. It's very important. I'm not talking about price. I'm talking about dealers have this weird misplaced hate. It's expensive. How much you spending? I'm spending $4,000 a month for this portal. And I'm like, well, I just showed you you were pissing away $15,000 a month because you weren't even looking at your data. Oh, I guess they're not that expensive after all. I get so fueled up about this is because we're kicking a ecosystem that represents every other way that consumers shop. They go to Walmart or Target, they go to Amazon because they have lots of products. The website's easy to use, gives them price transparency, the ability to compare. I'm not talking about price, I'm talking about function. They spend millions of dollars creating a brand promise, and you don't even have a brand promise. And then you wonder why you're blowing tens of thousands of dollars a month in paid search because you're trying to pick up from a deficiency of your own ignorance. I'm not saying you need to be on every portal, but I'm telling you that until you look into a mirror and say, I have no brand promise, I'm spraying and praying, I'm not measuring a thing, why are you picking and saying Cars.com or Auto Trader is expensive? Well, I just think, listen, I think I can generate the leads more efficiently. I'm like, based on what? You're not measuring anything. You have no goal set up. One thing that you should know about third-party portals that talks to this audience, and you can tell I'm passionate about this, is that when someone goes to a VDP on a third party, they have 3 to 4 times more likelihood of that person, like 400% higher engagement rate with the photos. Let me say that again. Someone goes to your VDP with your current, unless you have a really good marketing partner, when someone goes to a VDP, you're lucky to get 15%, 20% of those people to look at photos. When someone goes to a VDP on Edmunds, Car Gurus, Cars.com, 60%. What does that tell you? The people who are going to those portals are real serious shoppers. You think, well, I want them to go to my website. Well, you're just throwing people to your website. You're not providing relevant content. You're not measuring, so no joke that, well, when they get to that VDP or SRP, they're doing nothing because you just thought if you threw them on the wall, they'll stick and stay and engage. This is another favorite of mine. Who controls your monthly vendor call? Would we be honest? Yeah, great. I control the call. Now, you're the unicorn. You're one of those people who actually have become a student of the game. You've trained yourself to understand how to separate fact from fiction. Dealers in the room, would you agree that often when you get your Google Ads review, they're like, this is what we spent, this is how many leads, you're crushing it! You're crushing it! No one else in the market's doing like, this is amazing! And you're like, but I didn't sell any more cars. But your click-through rate is awesome! And the time on site went up 20%! And it's like, yeah, but I didn't sell any more cars, but let's spend more money then. Isn't it time in 2019, if we took our data seriously, we would make sure we had the metrics in place to validate the vendor reports? I was recently part of a massive audit that blew my mind. The vendor gave a report to this group of dealers that said in 1 month they had 2,750 conversions. It was actually 199. Because no one at the dealership asked, what do you call a conversion? Do you understand? Isn't it time, if we took our data seriously, that we would set the performance metrics? I had a conversation this morning with a dealership executive, and he told about this meeting, presentation, a pitch. And the team pitched, and they lost. And he coached the team pitching and said, did you even ask the general managers what metrics they were to use to measure success? And no, honestly, watch, I bet they didn't do that because they probably didn't think the general managers had any metrics. Do you understand? You'll take anything. How many of you, honestly, have canceled the paid search vendor, 18 months later, canceled them and went with another, and you have no idea of the three which was doing a better job? We have to start controlling our vendor calls. We need to connect the online experience with the showroom. We talked about this. We'll talk about this more tomorrow. But listen, if you took your data seriously, you would be working on creating this seamless transition. If you took your data seriously, you'd be measuring when someone walked in, when they were greeted, when the salesman started, when they went on the test drive. And all through that process, if you took your data seriously, you saw what Dave Metter said about millennials. They're going to the most dealers because they're looking for experience. How can you get your showroom experience better if you don't measure it? Platforms like Next Up are doing some pioneering work in that. But I will tell you this. You don't measure what goes on in the showroom because you think when someone comes in the showroom, they're kind of a laydown. We're good at that. Yeah, but I don't want to be good. I don't want to be good at anything. Good is the killer of great. I'd want my team to be great. For the vendors in this room, I'd like to close with a couple general challenges for you. Stop following Google's playbook and regurgitating metrics that dealers don't care about. Dealers don't care about probably 3/4 of the metrics that are on a standard advertising report. But somehow we believe that a general manager with 100 million things on his plate wants to know click-through rate, time on site, number of pages viewed. They want to know, what did they do on my website? I don't care what count of pages, which pages did they go to? How did they engage on those pages? Is my marketing message connecting? One of the cool things about dealer teamwork, where we set up for the Maurice Group conversion goals and multi-channel funnels for each of their campaigns. You know what's really cool about metrics that matter? We break out their used car campaign, their new car campaign, their branding campaign, individual in multi-channel sales funnels, and we can see how many last click and assisted conversions each campaign. Those are some actionable metrics, because dealers don't care who is the last click. They want to know which marketing channels are working in unison to give me the most of what I want, sales opportunities. I want to encourage the OEMs that might be listening on live stream. Obviously, we have some representatives here from the OEM community. I'd like to create a unified standard for Google Analytics metrics for digital retailing, so we could create virtual sales funnels. Whether you're using Roadster or Gabagoo or CarNow or Sarah or Accelerate, whichever platform, that we could actually give dealers and dealer groups a concise set of engagement metrics that would allow us to compare which platforms, processes, and steps in which order are giving consumers exactly what they want. We got to do something about our data interchange. I think, honestly, the only people that are going to be able to create ADF 2.0 is the OEMs. They're going to have to press down on their website and CRM companies. We need a better data interchange spec, and that could also mean a better universal API. What our industry really needs is a safe zone, a box, a virtual box, where data can safely be passed and interchanged. That's not going to happen anytime soon. APIs as they exist today, if you've had any experience with trying to work with CRM APIs, some of them are good and some of them are horrible. If we really took our data seriously, if we really wanted to create a modern retail experience, we have to stop shoving this complex digital retailing record into the comments field. We have to stop sending a hyperlink, which means the CRM is just a launch pad for another dashboard. When are we going to really take our data seriously? Again, I think this can only happen at the OEM level. I've tried it, but when you think of everything we talked about yesterday, just some of the things I shared with you today, why do we certify technicians? Because we know it's an important part of our business. When are we going to really create some certification? Isn't it odd that people go through NADA Academy and they really come out knowing nothing about digital marketing or measurement? Isn't that funny? Isn't it odd that OEMs have these managed digital retailing, managed digital marketing, managed social media, and they know their dealers have no clue how to see if they're working? If we really took our data seriously, we'd establish some digital certifications. And it's not self-serving just because I've built online courses for it. I'm just one voice. It doesn't have to be my training, but there has to be something more comprehensive. I am so sick of hearing members of the OEM community and the vendor community here is like, dealers are stupid, Brian. They're stupid. When it comes to digital marketing, they don't really care. They wouldn't spend $500 to get someone certified. I say, but hold on, they're spending a few $1 million a year as a dealer group, few $100,000 a year. Yeah, they're cheap. They won't do it. I don't know what the solution is, but if doctors and lawyers have to go through continuing education, we need to do something about it. And then for the OEMs here in the vendor community, if digital retailing is going to change the way the consumer buys a car, we have to change our survey methodologies. Some dealers are actually afraid to embrace digital retailing because the OEM surveys might penalize them. Do you know that? If we're really going to get serious about our data, we really need to make sure the surveys are plugged into how the consumer bought. Do you understand? If a consumer really went through a whole digital retailing workflow, should they get the same survey as somebody who just walked in as a fresh up? Do you understand? Some dealers are afraid that if they change their retail process, that the consumer's score on surveys is going to crush those metrics that they get paid on. I've created a checklist, two-sided document for everyone here as an opportunity for you to leave here with some actionable things. So I'll close as we prepare for our next panel with just this simple question. Will you take your data seriously? Dealers here in the room, vendors, will you help bring transparency and standards to your customers so I don't have to call you up every week begging you to send events, begging you to fix the goals, begging you to do what I'd say the basics of giving your customers the ability to succeed in a digital age. Thank you very much for your time this morning, and I'd like to call up our next panel. Thank you.
Hi, this is Brian Pasch, founder of PCG Companies, and I'm glad that you enjoyed some of the excerpts from the Digital Marketing Strategies Conference in the beautiful Napa Valley. Coming up in November is the Automotive Analytics and Attribution Summit. It's in beautiful Palm Beach, Florida. It's November 17th, 18th, and 19th. I encourage you to go to the website, Automotive Attribution Summit, and purchase your tickets. Last year, we sold out. This conference is available to dealers, OEMs, and automotive industry leaders on the vendor side, developer side, or analyst side of the business. Remember, we have a special rate at the Breakers Hotel, and it's important that you book early because we have a limited block of rooms, and since so many of the activities are happening at the Breakers, you wouldn't want to miss staying at the hotel and being able to conveniently attend the cocktail receptions, the workshops, the keynotes, and the special events. Keep in mind that those of you who'd like to come a day early, we have a full day Google Analytics certification class, and for the first time this year, for data-driven automotive professionals, we're going to have some specific training on Google Tag Manager and Google Data Studios. So make sure that you make your reservations for both your tickets and your hotel as soon as possible.